The first time the Veyr Dominion observed a human starship emerge from hyperspace, they mistook it for debris. It was asymmetrical, battered, and radiating a heat signature so unstable that even the Dominion's analytical AIs couldn't classify it. For a civilization whose starfleets curved like art installations, and whose weapons were crafted with precision measured in atomic increments, the human vessel looked less like a machine and more like an accident that had learned to navigate. No one among the Veyr believed the species inside such crude constructs could be a threat. At the time, the Dominion ruled 74 systems under a single banner of order. Their governance was cold, efficient, and rarely challenged. Their military fleets ran on quantum fluid reactors, powered by logic routines that simulated millions of possible outcomes before a single shot was fired. Their soldiers were cloned for obedience and engineered for clarity of purpose, without the burden of emotion or hesitation. To the Veyr, doubt was a defect, one they had purged long ago. So when they set their eyes on the newly discovered species from the Sol system, the Dominion concluded quickly and unanimously: the humans were primitive wanderers, drifting into the wrong sector of space. But they had miscalculated. Their sensors detected a crew of only 97 aboard the incoming vessel, a converted colony hauler that had been reinforced with irregular slabs of lunar steel, hand-welded by the look of it. Humans didn't rely on predictive AIs or cloned soldiers. They relied on something the Dominion couldn't quantify: instinct, improvisation, a relentless refusal to accept the obvious, and a soul-deep conviction that they could survive anything if they chose to. The Veyr would learn this lesson too late. The spark? The conflict started with a misunderstanding. A probe, a warning shot, and an automated Veyr security drone that identified the human ship as hostile simply because it didn't match any known structure. When the drone opened fire, the human vessel, Dauntless Horizon, responded with a burst of kinetic rounds so inelegant and brute force that the Veyr officers observing from their orbital outpost thought it a malfunction. Except the primitive projectiles hit their mark. The Dominion's defense satellite went dark, sheared in half by tungsten slugs that ignored nearly all known shield harmonics. The simpler the weapon, the harder it was to counter. In a single instant, the Dominion understood something they had not accounted for. Humans were unpredictable. Worse, they were dangerous. Within days, a war began that neither side had intended, but only one side fully understood: the humans. For the first time in centuries, the Dominion felt something they couldn't compute: doubt, middle, the war no one expected. Within 3 months, the conflict expanded across 5 sectors. The Dominion, certain of a swift victory, deployed fleet after fleet to pacify the newcomers. But humans didn't fight like any species they'd encountered before. Other civilizations waged war through strategy. Humans waged war through story. Every battle, every loss, every victory, they absorbed it, adapted, and retold it until a new tactic emerged. They celebrated unpredictability, creativity, and the reckless bravery that the Dominion mistook for incompetence. If a Veyr battle formation was a perfect geometric lattice, a human formation was a storm, chaotic, violent, and capable of shifting direction in an instant. The Dominion would tighten their ranks, stabilize their shields, and fire in synchronized volleys. The humans would scatter, jam their sensors with improvised transmitters, slingshot their ships around planetoids, and ram anything that got in their way. Efficiency versus audacity, logic versus instinct, an equation the Veyr had never needed to consider. Until now, a name across the stars. It was during the siege of Meridian Ring that the Dominion first heard the name of the human who would later define the war: Commander Rhea Solburn. She wasn't bred for war, nor trained in academies the way Dominion officers were. She had been an asteroid miner, a ship mechanic, a scavenger. Every profession the Dominion considered low skill and beneath notice. And yet she somehow became the architect of humanity's most decisive engagements. Her flagship, the Ironwind, was a fusion of 3 salvaged carriers welded into one hulking juggernaut. Dominion analysts called it a structural insult to physics. It was grotesque, asymmetrical, and barely held together by magnetic clamps and stubbornness. But under her command, it moved like a living creature. And it terrified the Dominion. When the Ironwind arrived at Meridian Ring, a fortress construct with enough firepower to shatter moons, the Dominion expected the humans to retreat. Instead, Commander Solburn issued a transmission that echoed across the sector. "The moment you fired on us, you taught us who you are. Now we'll show you who we are." The battle lasted 31 hours. It became legend. The Dominion defended with precision. Humans attacked with fury. The Veyr cycled through 2 million predictive simulations. Not one accounted for the humans powering down their engines to drift between defense nodes, using the station's own gravity wells to slingshot torpedoes in unpredictable arcs. When Meridian Ring finally fell silent, human marines breached its command core. Not with elegant energy lances, but with explosive charges pieced together from mining ordnance. The Dominion watched in shock as their inferior opponents claimed one of their greatest military achievements. The shift, one by one, allied species under the Dominion began to question their masters. If humans, fragile, emotional, chaotic humans, could strike fear into a superpower, what else had the Dominion lied about? Rebellions emerged on the Dominion's fringe worlds. Trade routes collapsed. Cloned soldiers began to malfunction under the strain of contradictory orders. The Dominion had always believed themselves without equal, but they had never faced a species that gloried in overcoming the impossible. For the first time in their cold, calculated history, the Veyr began to lose. End. The final stand at Keshal Prime, the Dominion retreated to their capital system of Keshal Prime. Their remaining fleets formed an iron wall encircling the planet, a final attempt to prove their supremacy. 400 human ships emerged from hyperspace. They were outnumbered 5-1, but they didn't hesitate. Among them sailed the Ironwind, leading the spearhead. Commander Solburn stood at the helm, staring down the might of a civilization that had dominated the stars long before humanity had learned to split the atom. Dominion High Marshal Zaylori broadcast a final warning. "Turn back, humans. You cannot win. Your kind is inconsistent, irrational, and flawed." Rhea Solburn laughed, a sound the Dominion officers found unnerving. "You're right," she said, "but that's why you can't beat us. You erased doubt from your people. We learned to rise because of it." And with that, the humans charged. Chaos versus perfection. The Dominion unleashed a wall of energy fire so dense it illuminated the void in bands of blue. The humans split into dozens of attack clusters, none following the same vector. No predictive algorithm could track them all. When the Dominion adjusted their firing grid, the humans changed patterns again. Like dancers, like madmen, like 1,000 different possibilities made real. The Veyr had engineered themselves to eliminate uncertainty. The humans wielded uncertainty as a weapon. Battleships rammed cruisers, escort craft detonated in sacrificial bursts to disable shield arrays. Salvaged frigates spiraled through enemy lines, launching boarding pods at impossible angles. The Ironwind punched through the outer blockade, trailing smoke and molten steel. Its hull cracked, its engines guttered, but still it advanced. Inside the Dominion Command Citadel, officers and AIs alike struggled to process what they were seeing. "Their losses are catastrophic," one Veyr analyst reported. "Yes," said another, "and yet their assault strength remains undiminished." It made no sense. Humans bled, humans broke, humans mourned. But humans also endured. The moment everything changed, a final barrage struck the Ironwind, shearing off its entire port side. Flames danced along its fractured decks. One more hit would end it. Commander Solburn refused to fall back. Instead, she issued a command to all surviving ships: push forward. For every world they silenced, for every voice they programmed to obey, for every species they made doubt itself. Today, we show them what doubt can do. The human fleet surged, not because they were strong, not because they were advanced, but because they refused to accept defeat. And for the first time, the Dominion felt something paralyzing: fear. Their soldiers hesitated, their commanders wavered, their logic trees overloaded with contradictions. How did a species so flawed continue to advance? The humans breached the final defense line. Their ground forces descended to Keshal Prime, igniting battles across the crystalline streets of the Dominion capital. Within 12 hours, the Veyr High Council surrendered. The war was over. What remained? In the aftermath, humans did something the Dominion had not predicted. They didn't conquer. They didn't subjugate. They didn't erase. Instead, they rebuilt. Humans helped restore power grids, repaired infrastructure, released cloned soldiers from their genetic overrides, and negotiated an independent governance structure for each Dominion world. To the Veyr, whose society had been based on dominance and hierarchy, this was incomprehensible. When a Veyr scholar asked Commander Solburn why humans showed mercy after so much bloodshed, she responded simply, "Because we know what doubt feels like, and we know what happens when it's erased. A new era among the stars." Century later, children of countless species would learn the story of the war where humans, the youngest race among the stars, challenged a power thought unstoppable. They would learn of chaos defeating perfection, of instinct overwhelming calculation, of doubt once seen as a flaw, becoming the catalyst for freedom. And they would repeat the same line that appeared in every history archive across the galaxy. The moment humans entered battle, doubt was erased across the stars. Not because humans destroyed it, but because they transformed it. Doubt became curiosity, curiosity became progress, and progress became the foundation of a future no civilization could ever fully predict, just the way humans liked it.